Hi everyone, my name is Daniel Rosenwasser. I'm a program manager on the TypeScript language at Microsoft. Hey Sean. This may not be my best talk. I kind of just popped in here tonight, so spare me a little bit. So for those of you who don't know, TypeScript is basically an extension of JavaScript that adds static types to JavaScript. Well, what does that mean? Basically, there's these things at runtime where, based on, let me actually pop into a node prompt really quickly. At runtime, you always have these things in your objects, properties and the like, so prop1 and prop2. That's a number, let's say. And so implicitly, in your runtime, you have these shapes, and these shapes are actually what you can consider types. So there's this concept of types that float around in your program while you run your code. However, there's this concept of a static type system where you actually think about your types ahead of time, and that way you can actually, not exploit it, but basically ensure that you're not making any mistakes based on certain guarantees. So as an example, this example up here is a function that's supposed to lowercase stuff, as the comment says. And who here can spot the bug? OK, so a couple people got it. Just an example, basically, when TypeScript runs through this code, it strips away all the types, the type annotations, and it gives you plain JavaScript that you can run at the end. Turns out that types are optional in JavaScript. You don't have to write all the types out. However, you can switch to a mode where all the types are required. So you can actually force people to say what the types you expect are. So as an example, with this lowercase function, I wanted to call it with a string. So here, the editor here is supposed to actually, we have some functionality to basically figure out what types are flowing through. And we can say that S is supposed to be a string. So most of you are pretty familiar with the concept of a string. And so here, we're actually able to tell, hey, there's a problem. This member doesn't exist. Did you mean to locale lowercase? And so we can actually provide fixes here as well. And so the point of a static type system is to actually tell you when your program may not be working correctly. And in addition to that, once it has the information to tell you when things are not working correctly, we can potentially tell you what you might want to write to be correct. So for example, I can write to locale lowercase, and I can actually get the completions there. Or if I actually misspelled it like I did, I can get a quick fix for these things. And so there's a couple of jabs at VS Code and WebStorm and whatever. For me, the thing that I love about this stuff is that it is supposed to make you more productive, right? I don't care what editor you use. You can use TypeScript in any editor anywhere. And basically, the same experience is leveraged everywhere because it's an open source cross-platform language service. What that means is that we provide these completions to your editor. And as long as your editor has a plugin system, it can just grab the information and give you a completion right here. Sup. I don't know where that comes from. Oh, it's a superscript element. Don't you love Java? Don't you love HTML? OK. So cool. Why am I showing this to you? Well, because part of the idea here is that TypeScript works with React. Specifically, we support JSX and things like that. And one of the biggest pain points that we heard when we were working on TypeScript 3.0 was that the React experience it leaves a little bit to be desired, basically. Who here has got, of the React TypeScript users, who here has gotten a really scary error message in the past? Yeah. And I'll show you one right now. You see this and you're like, oh, he's telling me about great tooling, and this is the worst thing I've ever seen. I'd rather just not use it at all. And it's kind of sad because we actually are telling you the right thing at the very bottom here. There is an incompatibility issue. So I just kind of wanted to give you an idea. Once we heard enough of this feedback from React users over time, we realized that we needed to actually invest a little bit more, not just in the general UX space, but in the React TypeScript UX space as well. So one of the improvements that we have in TypeScript 3.0 is, let me get rid of this stuff. What is that from? OK, oh, that's the comment. So now, as opposed to this really terrible, disgusting error message, we're actually able to pinpoint the specific location of like where things went wrong. This is important because maybe some of you use prop types in your development cycle, right? And the problem with prop types is you save and then you reload, and then if you have hot module reloading, maybe that's great, but at the same time, you have to like flip between your editor and your actual browser. The thing is, here we actually try to keep the editing delay below 500, well, no, lower than that, like 100 milliseconds. So you should be able to get your diagnostics really quickly. So as I hit keystrokes, I don't even have to save the file. You just get the feedback very quickly. So as an example here, TypeScript is telling us that you can't give a string to something where we expect a date. Another really cool improvement that we have in TypeScript 3.0 is we have support for default props. So as an example, if I remove all of these here, so I've said that bar is an optional property up here, foo is required, and so it'll tell me that foo is missing, basically, right here. Not the best error message. We may be able to fix that a little bit more, but this is an incremental process, and we want to get more feedback. The cool part is we actually can support default props now, which is really neat. This was not something that we supported for a while, but like, the thing is, we're always listening to our users. We're always trying to develop and iterate there. And so at the end of the day, like what we care about is just providing a great user experience. And it turns out that if you've already been using JavaScript in VS Code, and potentially in other editors as well, you've already gotten the experience here. Like if I open up another buffer, like language JavaScript, and I say date.now, right? And I look at where date.now is defined. This is actually defined in a DTS file, which is actually a TypeScript declaration file. It tells us everything that actually exists at runtime, everything that we can actually access. So basically, if you've already gotten good completions, you've gotten a good experience, I just want to say, hey, give it a shot. Like, I think you'll have a great time. Lots of places use TypeScript and React together. Microsoft is one of them. Slack, Lyft, others. And it's been great. And of course, we just had like an entire presentation that used TypeScript and React together as well with MobX. So yeah, give it a shot if you haven't already. I'd love to hear your feedback. I'd love to see hear your thoughts. And just hang out with me after this talk, I guess. Thanks a bunch.